broadcast?
We are.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Okay. So you will be able to hear as we make each stop the presentation. I'm gathering from you, Brian.
I'm sorry.
You will be sort of the moderator as we do our tour.
Yes.
Tell us where to go next, and when we stop, and you'll give us highlights of that location. Okay. Brian, anything else that preliminarily?
No, other than if we can get as many people as possible sitting in the chairs around the council chamber or around the council table.
Yeah.
You can use Chris's chair, and then you can use the three on the side.
Yeah.
And these two here,
Guys,
so
turn
it's
around.
easier to see the screen.
Okay, I think we have, if anyone needs to grab refreshment or coffee or something like that, feel free to do so right now before we start. Brian, are you involved? Okay, Madam Clerk, morning. Good, all right. Excellent, and Brian?
Yes, sir.
He started it.
I'll move that.
How's the wedding?
It's not there yet, but we're getting close.
You get it.
Yeah, all right. I asked somebody if they knew a good divorce lawyer, but.
Might be able to help you out. Okay, Brian, over to you.
I'm gonna take this off, but there's a few. So if we could have more people around, it's easy, it'll be easier to see the screens. Everybody running up here. Okay, so it's chair there, two more.
There's a chair up there. If anyone wants to come right up here, front row.
You sit in the room.
Morning, how you doing?
Good.
Morning.
I get pictures of someone like this.
Okay, perfect. How are you, Mr. Ward? Okay, so welcome. My name is Brian Sherry. I'm the CAO and clerk for Town of Hanover. So we're going to, well, let's get into my preamble here. So I can appreciate that the terms of reference for this task force does not necessarily focus on the boundary issues of Hanover or Owen Sound. And I can confirm that Hanover's specific boundary issues are negatively affecting housing availability, specifically affordable housing, and social issues in general. But we do know with certainty that our lack of developable lands has and continues to negatively affect employment opportunities and labor force attraction. We have experienced the loss of numerous development opportunities over the past several years simply because we didn't have the right mix or supply of lands. This has resulted in lost employment, lost assessment, and lost opportunities in general, not only for Hanover, but for our neighbors and the county as a whole. Our limited supply of developable and employment lands is by far Hanover's most important issue. A scoped comprehensive review completed in 2019 indicated that no additional residential lands, although no additional residential lands are required in the designated, to be designated to accommodate housing demand for the next 20-year planning horizon. The next 25-year planning horizon indicates that there is a need for at least an additional 11 gross hectares of land. And 25 acres is now the PPS standard, right?
25 years.
I'm sorry, 25 years is now the PPS planning horizon.
That's correct.
With respect to commercial lands, there's a need for an additional 16 hectares of designated commercial land to accommodate the commercial demand within Hanover over the next 20 years, and 29 hectares over the next 25 years. We're hopeful that by the time your work is completed, you will be in a position to make recommendations that address opportunities and areas of concern for the benefit of not only Hanover and Owen Sound, but the county as a whole. We commend you for your commitment to this task. Our objective this morning is to provide the task force with a snapshot of Hanover from a physical perspective, including our boundaries, what development is currently ongoing, and a sample of the challenges that we face with respect to affordable housing. We'll start with April Marshall, who's our Economic Development Manager, to provide some quick facts about Hanover. I'll provide a summary of our past and current boundary challenges. Don Tedford, our Director of Development, Chief Building Official, will summarize current development, and Chief Denninger, our Fire Chief, will provide a sample of some issues associated with one of Hanover's primary affordable housing facilities. Then we'll take a tour of the town to instill our tight boundaries and also point out key points of interest. So we encourage you to enjoy yourself and don't hesitate to ask questions as we go. Okay, April.
So turning the knee there, we'll take away break. Good morning, everybody. For I mentioned, I'm April Marshall, and I'm an Economic Development Manager. So I get to share some of the fun success stories with you about Hanover. So we have a population of 7,688, and our land area is 9.8 square kilometers. So we have a population density of 784.9 per square kilometer. We have over 500 businesses, and 98% of them are small, medium enterprises. And within our 30-kilometer reach, we can reach a population of 40,000. So did you know that Hanover has more jobs than we do households? We're a hub for services surrounded by a rural landscape. Again, home to over 500 businesses, and thousands of people are employed in Hanover, either from within our community or beyond. We all know this, that in Grey County especially, people are coming in and out of every community. Interesting fact as well is that Hanover has leading manufacturers of butterball turkey, flour, and trout in Ontario. So we're very fortunate to have Cedar Crest Trout Farms. I know they have several farms in Grey County, but as they say, most of the trout that you're getting out of the grocery store is spawned through those farms. Our major employers, public being Town of Hanover, the Hanover District Hospital, Grey Bruce Grey Catholic School Board, and private is Electrical Contacts, Excelsior Foods, Playtime Casinos, Grand Street Independent Grocer, Horizon Division of Maple Leaf Foods, Leeson Canada, P&H Milling Group, Walmart, and West Brothers. Should probably just backtrack for a second because we're talking about being the second largest urban center in Grey County. And the draws being, again, in this rural landscape is that we have very strong recreation services, healthcare, and a very strong retail sector. So we've eliminated the non-resident fees for our recreation program so that people in the area are able to participate without paying those additional fees for our amenities. And 50% of employees are coming from outside of the town. Just going over some of our attractions that we're very proud of. We have an entertainment district, and that contains our P&H Center, the casino, and as well as the Hanover Raceway. Our downtown district is very vibrant, and we have a renowned bakery, which is the donuts that you are enjoying this morning. And also for Culture Days, if you've noticed, and you'll notice as you're driving around town, we had some fun. We made known for the donuts, and we created some selfie frames of them, and we put them out through the community. We had a baker's dozen of them. And so we're tasking the community with finding them and taking selfies and sharing with them. So we're just having a little bit of fun with that. Again, we have a farmer's market, a Heritage Square, live entertainment theater here in this building, and various dining options and shopping. We're very fortunate to have McLean's Ales Brewery as well, be a partner in the Saudi Municipal Airport. We have Launchpad, our Youth Activity and Technology Center, which is now expanding and offering adult programming and seniors programming as well. And we have one of Ontario's last remaining drive-ins. I know it's technically in Westray, but we can claim it as Hanover's as well.
I attended the other night.
Did you? Oh, you went to the Works? Great. Very good. Yeah, so we're very fortunate, right? Especially in these times when people are adapting and they're getting very creative with the spaces that we have. So the drive-in has been a huge asset for that.
I think it's 30 years ago since I've been last year.
Oh, really? Did you make it on
Did you watch the
night?
movie?
You did. Excellent. And we're also very fortunate to have the Sagging River. So that's also another draw for fishing, paddling, canoeing, and you started a canoe launch here in Hanover as well. So we have our trails. We have 85 acres of parkland, open space, and 11 kilometers of community trails that we maintain as well. So, yeah, so if anyone has any questions, I just wanted to give you kind of like a high level piece of it, what we're very proud of, and we would like to continue to grow as well. Thank you.
All right, thanks, April. Any questions for April? Okay, hearing none, then we'll skip right into talking about boundaries.
Right?
Yes, sorry.
That population density, how does that compare to other sections? How does Hanover compare in terms of that 784 population density to other municipalities? You know?
No,
Randy, do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head now, but it's something that we can definitely look into for sure.
I think it would be close to Owen Sound, but definitely
Yeah.
much higher than any other municipality.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Words are on, Mr. Chair. I just wondered if you have a further opportunity for your mayor to speak any highlights on Hanover. I know I was here, I think a couple years ago, and she gave me the highlights of Hanover and the table, the back room, and all that stuff. I just wondered if there's any further thing that your mayor may want to speak about Hanover.
April did a good job. She covered almost everything.
Just so you're a very good folks a couple years back. When I was here. It was really good.
Brian, if I may, Rob, how are we doing for sound, by the way, for broadcast? Do you want people to be closer to that mic?
The closer to the podium would be the better for sound, or if you're sitting around here and these are on, it will probably pick the sound up in the room if you use the microphones.
Okay, so you turn it on simply by pushing the button that says talk, and you push it again when you're going to speak. Sorry, Brian.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so we'll get right into a little bit of the history of what the boundaries. And I apologize in advance if I read from my script here because it gets a little complicated, so I want to make sure I get this right. So what you see in front of you now is a 1976 boundary. That's outlined in, no, I'm sorry, this first slide is just basically showing what the current boundaries are of Hanover and our proximity to Bruce County. So the red line there is Bruce County. We're obviously in Gray County, but we're very close to Bruce County as well. The purple line here.
Brian, can you please just go back?
Oh, I'm sorry.
For a second, it's easy to miss. My apologies. So the red line, you would see that's the county road, right? And you see it sort of goes beyond the county line in some instances. So we do protrude into Bruce County to a certain extent, right? And if you were to show what else surrounds us, we're surrounded on the left, which is the west by Bruce County. And if you were to show what we're surrounded by the rest of the way,
Westbury.
that's all Westbury.
That's all Westbury. So Westbury on three sides, Brockton on one. And on the border again of the counties. Okay, so this is our boundary in 1976, outlined in purple here. So with the newly created East End commercial area and the demands for major development, the town made application to annex certain lands from the township of Bentic, which is municipality of Westbury in 1976. The OMB granted certain lands for annexation that were unacceptable to the town and resulted in the lieutenant governor in council issuing an order in council to hold a new hearing for the OMB file. This hearing concluded that the OMB approving the annexation of certain lands to the east in accordance with pre-negotiated minutes of settlement of all parties to the application. So the lands that were annexed include this area here, which was proved to be very beneficial, as well as this area here. So this was our boundaries in 1979. What you see in the dotted line here, and under here, is the urban fringe in the Gray County official plan in 1998. Gray County's OP states that the urban fringe designation shall be applied to development influence areas adjacent to urban designations of the county plan. The urban fringe is intended to be preserved for the expansion of the adjacent urban areas. It reflects the strategic direction of where urban areas can likely grow over the longer term and ensures that interim decisions do not impede appropriate growth at these future horizons. The urban fringe area provided the town with the necessary planning requirements to allow for further boundary adjustments to accommodate growth, plus protect the lands from development that may interfere with road pattern and incompatible uses. So just keep in mind those areas, okay, because they're significant. So this slide shows January 1st, 2000 restructuring. The town held a public information meeting and open house in September 1999 to discuss and review the restructuring proposal and the lands to be annexed to Hanover. The lands had very little potential for future development, save and except the Walmart site, which is shown right here, and did not follow the policies and procedures with the County of Gray's OP, with urban fringe designation, plus the planning evidence and statement with the 1977 and 1979 OMB hearing results. However, the town was left with no alternative but to agree with this 2000 restructuring proposal so as to satisfy all lower and upper tier municipal and county councilors and put closure to the overall discussions and negotiations for Gray County restructuring. So this area, as you'll see when we take our tour, there's a significant easement, hydro easement and hydro corridor, transmission corridor that goes along here. This area is where the current Walmart is, which proved to be beneficial. However, there's still a significant amount of hazard in there. And this southern part, again, is, as we take our tour, you'll see that it's close to the river and also a significant hazard area. So that became our 2000 boundary, is outlined in white. The town has been, for the last 20 years, competing against, oh, I'm sorry, I won't even go there. So this is our boundary as a result of the annexation of 2000. So that became our boundary. Little added here, this area added, and this area at the bottom added. Okay, so area D, which you see here, recommended for expansion in February 3rd, 2010 report. Okay, it was 105 gross hectares. So on March 3rd, 2009, County Council adopted official plan amendment number 80 without recognizing Hanover's concerns for urban fringe policies and commercial industrial growth. Hanover objected to OPA number 80 to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Their response was that they had received OPA 80 for approval with no boundary changes proposed, and that a section of the PPS requires a comprehensive review to substantiate a boundary change. So in consultation with the ministry, Hanover's planning consultant, IBI Group, completed a comprehensive review of, as per the ministry's requirements to substantiate a boundary change. The review was sent to Gray County Council, Gray County Planning and West Gray, because those lands, specifically area D and E, are in West Gray. To substantiate, I'm sorry, where am I here? Yeah, so the review was sent to County Planning as well as West Gray on February 3rd, 2010. County Council debated on the removal of the Hanover settlement area from OPA 80 and resolved that West Gray would review the IBI report as required by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. Hanover agreed that if West Gray supported the comprehensive review, then OPA number 80 would proceed with no boundary change, but rather through a servicing agreement. On April 26, 2010, Gray County Planning facilitated a meeting between West Gray and Hanover, and there was no support in moving forward with the Hanover settlement area issue, and they wanted to complete a new comprehensive review for the whole of West Gray, even though the ministry had supported the expanded Durham settlement area through OPA 80. A request to form an ad hoc committee was also not supported, and the meeting ended with no proposed follow-up. On July 6, 2010, representatives from Hanover met with Minister Bradley of Municipal Affairs and Housing and requested that he issue a restructuring order under Part 5 of the Municipal Act or establish a commission in accordance with the Act to develop a proposal for restructuring of the municipalities of West Grey and Hanover. From my understanding, Minister Bradley was supportive of the idea, but was shortly reassigned to another ministry, and the file, for all intents and purposes, went no further.
So Brian, I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you point out just on that we were the Walmart Canadian Tire, just in relationship to where we are there? That's the Canadian Tire.
Okay, that's in this area here, along here.
So it's not-
There's County Road 4, so it's right there. Canadian Tire is right there. So this section was expanded as part of the 2000 annexation, so that's where Walmart ended up being. But as you can see, there's also a good portion of that land is also hazard. Okay.
So as you're driving, Brian, as you're driving out of town, out of Hanover towards Durham, Brian, if you could point out where Hanover's boundary ends on the left-hand side, which would be north, versus where Hanover's boundary ends on the right-hand side, which would be south.
You want me to point that out? I'm sorry.
If you could, yes.
Okay, so, well, this is where the boundary is on the north.
No, I mean along,
Really,
Road
sure.
4. So you're driving
Okay.
out of town towards, Durham.
Right.
So that's County Road 4 there.
Right.
Just, I think it's important people see, because even citizens get confused about this. Where does Hanover end and begin on the left side, which is the north, versus the south side, which is the south?
Okay,
Sorry, the right, which is the south.
so the south would just be right by
Shoppers. Yeah.
Shoppers Drug Mart. Okay. So Shoppers is right here, the liquor store is on the corner here, then Shoppers. So that's where it ends, on the south.
Yeah.
And here, just prior to, okay, so there's Bucks Crossing Golf Course. So, and there's a little cemetery in here. Okay, so it's just prior to the cemetery, is that right, Don?
Cemeteries in Westbury.
Yeah, it's just prior to the cemetery.
So Walmart is in Hanover.
Yep.
And just beyond Walmart, you're in West Grey.
Correct.
And when you're driving by Walmart on the south side of the county road, it's Westbury.
It's all West Grey.
So,
Mr. Ward?
Mr. Chair, so I think there's a contractor business on the south side.
Yeah.
Tool rentals. That's
This is where
it.
it's on.
West Grey.
West Grey.
Again, right past, everything past Shoppers Drug Mart is in West Grey.
Right, if you go Jiffy Lube, a Jiffy Lube on the main street, 240 feet south is West Grey. Jiffy Lube is in Hanover, but on the boundary of the Magnet Farm. So you go from Jiffy Lube all the way up to Shoppers, only 240 feet deep. Everything behind that is West Grey. After Shoppers, it's all West Grey, right up to the County Road 4.
So why was it?
Yeah.
Try to say it that way.
Yeah.
So why was the boundary, when was that boundary for Little Strip created for Shoppers Drug Mart and all that? Was that like a subsequent somewhere back?
1979, same time.
It's limited to a very shallow depth at that time. I'm sure there's lots of argument and discussion that happened there, but.
It was a different person owned the farm at that time, where Cooney's is, and DJ Furniture and A&W. Those owned by another farmer.
Your worship, you'll be next.
I would think, I was just gonna say the same thing, the liquor store, Shoppers, anything south, as in the Masonic Hall, and Hanover Drive-In, is all in West Grey. So stop at Shoppers, you're in West Grey.
And of interest, as you drive along our main street, so if you go out here, turn right and drive along our main street, up there where Harvey's and all the restaurants are, there was a farm on our main street. the boundary, its boundaries on our main street, that farm, which is on our main street, is not Hanover. That is West Gray. Sorry?
That's where the arrows are coming from.
Yeah, correct, yes. Chair. Sorry, Councilor Desai?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question I had is, of course, municipalities depend on growth in order to spread out the taxation burden. How does Hanover deal with that when you have such limited potential for growth?
Well, I can tell you from a financial management perspective, we're very careful. We rely heavily on OLG slots revenues, approximately 1.4 million a year for capital. So that's designated 95% towards capital. So we're fortunate from that perspective. Unfortunately, though, this year, we're going to lose probably, if and nobody's anticipating that the slots will be open this year. We're going to lose probably about 1.2 million in capital. So we're dipping into reserves. It's not easy. Like I said, our assessment is the smallest in Gray County, probably the smallest in Gray and Bruce. So again, we rely heavily on the slots. We rely, we're doing everything we can to increase our assessment. We manage our resources very carefully. I don't have to tell my council, but I'm fiscally conservative, to say the least. So, we do the best we can, but it is a challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge.
I'm guessing he's conservative.
That's good.
I was going to go there.
Hey, Councilor Desai.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the 1.2 million loss that you stated, is that after the COVID-related funding that the province has announced, or before that?
Yeah, we only got 222,000.
Right.
It's safe to say we're going to apply for phase 2 funding because we've had some significant other impacts as a result of that. But we've had to roll back capital for 2020, and we've dipped into our reserves to make up for what we've planned to go ahead with. But as you can appreciate, that's not sustainable now. Our reserves are going to be going, and we've got to maintain our infrastructure.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To go back to your map here for a moment, Area D obviously is mostly ag lands.
Yes.
And given the dearth of expandable area in the current footprint of the town, why not go the expropriation route? Is that I know that's not an easy route, but is that not an option?
It is an option, and it was an option back probably 20 years ago too, but at that time, the ministry was not prepared to issue an order. We're in a crunch right now, and we're in phase 2 of our growth plan. We have consultants working for us right now that are, first of all, and I think it's contingent on everybody, that we look at all of our special policy areas. So that includes areas where there's a potential for development. That's in this area down here, up to the north. There was special policy, actually there's a couple of policy areas up there, and in this area as well. Whether or not, okay, and actually we just had a draft report submitted, so the environmental consultant has been out there, he's looked at these lands, he will recommend whether or not they're developable. We are practicing intensification at every possible opportunity. That means second units in residential areas, trying to infill all of the little areas here and there with residential development or commercial development or whatever we can do. So we're making all efforts. Expropriation, it's on the radar as a possibility. It's a difficult question to ask, and it's going to cost, but it's somewhere, it's ultimately a place where we may need to go. The other thing we're doing, Councillor, is that We're trying to reach out to our residents or our neighbors. We're trying to engage them in discussions now. We've spoken to Municipal Affairs and Housing. We've spoken to, through the province, we've spoken to our MPP. We've spoken to Grey County, Bruce County. We have a meeting scheduled with Brockton. West Grey, we're having a little bit of difficulty getting them to the table, to be quite honest.
If I could, Mr. Chair, just, you know, as a farmer myself, I always hate to see good farmland, and I don't think anybody would question that's good farmland right there, the farms that we're talking about. But I find it ironic that the ministry wouldn't give you more options when they can't pave the ground north of Brampton fast enough. It just seems ridiculous, but that said, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One of the things you mentioned was the areas that are available for growth to the bottom of the screen as well as to the top of the screen. There's a lot of hazard lands in both of those areas. To me, that sort of signifies that you've been thinking more about building out. Has there been consideration given to building up in terms of high rises and so on, rather than building out in order to, I mean, I know it would increase the density quite a bit, which, and I did a quick look up, and Owen sounds at 870-ish people per square kilometer, and then he said they're at 74 per square kilometer. So I get that it would increase the density, but it seems like one of the only options available to you right now outside of expanding the boundaries. Has there been consideration given to that?
Don, you want to talk a little bit about our zoning requirements?
We got something in there with regards to the zoning requirements. We've eliminated our height requirements in the downtown for that reason. Up is not really a solution yet for Hanover. It's more money, it's more costly, there's lots of other things to go with that. We would just put ourselves back in another probably 20, 30 years all ago waiting for affordability. We are changing and we're doing a lot. I'll mention it in our zoning bylaw was back in 2015. I mean, Randy, that's when we put the push on for affordability. And we did make our lots smaller on the front. We made our lots less area, more lot coverage. We allowed secondary suites without having to have a minor variance or a zoning amendment. And we'd already been doing that, not to the extent we're doing now. I mean, we had some examples. The one that started it all off was the hospital had to do a locum house and wanted it inside another house. So they did it through a minor variance, and the neighbors went a little, didn't like it at all. Ended up with some rules that had to continue to look like a house, had to have one more parking spot, had to have a separate entrance. And we had certain requirements now that when you look at that house, you still think it was a single family dwelling. And then nobody complained and took off. Well, now we have that in our zoning bylaw. So people don't have to continually go for approvals for that type of infilling. But as far as up goes, we're trying very hard right now to attract some of them, but it's we're not quite there yet.
Our maximum, we're about 6 stories.
Right now, we're unlimited on the main street. In the C1 core, there's only 2 zones where we have an unlimited height, and that's our industrial zone and the C1 downtown. Now, that somebody could come in here and do, but they'd have to justify the height through some sort of planning application. Right now, most of the ones we have are 6 stories. We have 4 6-story buildings right now for residential.
Thank you. Oops, okay. Next slide. So future secondary plan lands were added as a result of a decision by the OMB to the county OP on October 4, 2012. That's about 140 acres, otherwise known as OPA 80. So following the approval of OPA 80, Hanover and West Grey worked with the county to develop a secondary plan for a portion of future secondary plan area. The purpose of the Hanover West Grey secondary plan is to provide an opportunity for urban development on lands located adjacent to the designated primary settlement area of Hanover. OPA 122 was adopted by county on April 1st, 2014. And at the same time, West Gray adopted a zoning bylaw to implement OPA 122. However, both OPA 122 and West Gray's bylaw were appealed to the OMB by the Magwood family farms. Ultimately, a settlement was reached between Hanover, West Gray, and the Magwoods. So most of the lands added were highway commercial. So this is the area that became OPA 122. This was originally designated OPA 80. However, that never went any further. So it's OPA 122 is this land. So this again is entirely in West Gray. There's Gray Road 28. You know, the drive-ins through there. There's Masonic lodges through there. And again, Magwood Family Farms is this area, and then there's periodic other owners in here, of which the town of Hanover is one, and I'll get into that a little bit in a bit. So here's the area that's designated again, primarily highway commercial. There's a little area that's open space. So that's OPA 122. That's currently in the county's official plan. Okay, so some of these lands, as I indicated, were purchased by the town of Hanover in West Gray over the last 10 years in anticipation of our boundaries being able to be expanded, but also to keep a certain landowner from further monopolizing land along Hanover's eastern boundaries shown in the next slide. And again, you know, it could be our imagination, but we have a sense that, you know, we're getting cornered in here. So we purchased a piece of property in here, and we purchased a piece of property in here. Oops. Okay. So this is just a bit of a history. So this purple here was our original boundaries back in 1976. And back in 1979, these portions were added. And in 2000, through an annexation process, the white area was added. The green is owned by one property owner. So all of the planning to this point has indicated that it's logical for us to grow to the east. So, you know, we're bounded in here. Okay, this is Bucks Crossing golf course. That up until this year operated. It's not operating this year, but again, it's very low. There's some issues there, hazard. But this is all owned by one property, by one property owner. Furthermore, we have a minimum distance separation with constraint. So in the middle of this circle is a barn, and there's a 600-foot arc, obviously in all directions, where development is restricted. A lot of this is historic, but there's a big section of land here that we can't build in without their permission. So that kind of brings to a conclusion the boundary history, unless anybody has any questions.
Chair, so the part to the north is relatively undeveloped. Is the river, is that a barrier for development, or is that just because the owners are continuing? So I only raise that is that an argument of those that are against moving forward because you have that area needs to be developed. I don't ask that.
You're talking about this area?
Yes.
Yeah. So as we see, there's this is owned by Hydro, for the Hydro transmission station here. And there's a Hydro, they have an easement right across this property. There's a Hydro corridor. So again, we're investigating what could possibly, there's a future residential development in this area. The rest of it's being farmed. We think that we will be able to use some of this land for industrial, but the Hydro corridor will be very restrictive, not to mention that the river there's a significant amount of hazard land in there as well, that I'm sure SPCA is not going to be too happy with those.
Just a follow-up to that, Mr. Chair, and that hydro corridor got expanded. And you go with an extra line, that the one that's been expanded.
Yes.
So that applies to probably too, right?
The northern lands, that's.
Yeah, right in the corridor.
It's, they've told us we can put a road underneath it, either east or west, north and south through it. But no buildings. So certain uses, agricultural farming, which they're already doing underneath those hydro lines as it is. But the other thing too, we have two natural hazard land areas that SDCA will be commenting on, and it'll take quite a bit of land out again. So we have two restrictions, primarily corridor east and west, and we have two major, or probably even three, a little bit of three hazard areas.
So, probably a good idea to show where the restrictions are, to really show what is possible. Because when you first look at it, well, why you got all that land up there? But it doesn't show that there's a lot of restriction there. And probably to make that argument, you need to show what could really be developed and what can't be. The constraints, right?
Right, as I think I indicated earlier, we're in the process of our growth plan phase 2, and part of that will be to look at special policy areas and to help us understand what areas can be developed and for what purposes, because we need to do that moving forward. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Don to talk about current development.
Before you start, Don, does anyone need a break? Yes? Could we say 5 minutes? Don? You want?
Sure.
Take just 5 minutes.
Find this interesting.
I got my mask on. How do you eat a donut?
Is this is for?
Well, this is our client.
Oh, it's the start. Okay, so you should-
This is just these two arrows.
Okay, Don, we're ready for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome to Hanover. And I really like your name, Hanover Own Sound. I don't know how long you've discussed that for the task force meeting. I've been on a lot of joint things with Bruce Gray, and it's always a challenge. But anyways, the Hanover Own Sound task is a very interesting mandate you have to do, so all the best. My little thing I was asked to do, Ryan's wanted me to talk about the development that was going on currently within the town, just to show, I guess, again, how busy the town can get and the need to grow. So this first one shows basically plans of subdivisions. So in the bottom left-hand corner is called Harris Pines, and it's about 25 lots, and there's about 6 or 7 homes that are already under construction there.
Don, are you able to show up with your pointer, please?
Oh, there we go.
There.
That's the Harris Pines here. And then the next one down here is the Country Meadows. There's probably only about 4 lots left in that. That's Brian Whaling's. It's basically full, mostly higher end homes. This one up here is Sagging Riverside. This one only started, Randy, what, 3 years ago?
Yeah, about that.
And there's not a vacant lot in there. The whole subdivision is full. So the lands north of that is owned by a farmer. So we don't know when that'll be sold for further development, but it could come on stream, you never know. And beside that is a subdivision called Gath or Parkside. There's probably about 10 lots left in that subdivision. And when you're looking at those older areas, like down here at Countryside and this one here, Parkside, they are larger lots. You can look at that. When we look at the newer subdivisions, you'll notice there's a lot of smaller lots. That's the change. This subdivision was created in probably the 90s, a little bit into the 2000s, for phase 2 was in 2000 something. And this one here was created in the late 60s and 70s, and it's taken that long for that subdivision to get filled out. The next one we're going to look at is it's a proposed ward condominiums. It's 47 towns right in this area, but again, the barn, as Brian showed, is right here. The 600 feet actually doesn't allow them all to be built in that area. Just to the north of that, on that little square lot, we've got Hope. You'll notice it driving down 18th Ave, the Hope Community Church. It's went through numerous complaints or objections about the church being that close to the barn. And still, we've honored the 600-foot arc. There's really no reason. The Planning Act works one way, like an urban area really doesn't have to comply with your minimum distance of separation, but the farmers have to maintain it the other way around. So it's kind of like but it's been like that forever. But we have decided many years ago to honor that 600-foot arc just through being good neighbors with the farmer. The next subdivision is Cedar East, is this whole area up in here. And that one there is just approved, and I think we've got a total of 11 towns on the go in there. There's 3 up in here and 4 more to start, like when you're driving through there. There's 5 fourplexes to go here, of which 2 are under construction, right beside Walmart. Then up in here is Brent Lee. Oh yeah, and this subdivision here is while they're starting 4 more semi-detached homes and 3 singles. And they're all being dug now and started. And the demand seems to be coming out of the city. And they're not cheap. Like everything seems to be. We tried to do affordability with the lots. We did do it. I think we managed to keep that down. Then along comes lumber prices and they triple. And there goes your savings that you on the lot. So it's really hard to control affordability. This area is called Brent Lee. It's Tim Kramer's. It's again 40-some lots, of which probably 10 or 15 of them are being built on now. They're upper end large homes if you drive through that area. And over here is Cedar West, We do have a concept drawing, I'll be getting to that. And that subdivision wants to go based on the fact that all the lots in Cedar East are now sold. There's no empty lots, there's no unsold lots left, so they've been bought up by developers. One out of Kitchener, one out of Durham, and one out of up in Hanover. So the rest, and then this one here is the Cedar West one is just a concept drawing right now, and it'll probably proceed this winter with the concept, ready to get its planning applications in. The subdivision just south of that one was called Hanover Heights. It was Bruce Berry, and he was there for many, many years doing that subdivision. And it's one of the first subdivisions I would say in my whole career that every lot has got a hose on it. There's not a vacant lot in the whole subdivision, and there's 110 lots in there. Usually there's always somebody that'll buy 2 lots. There's always a lot that didn't get built on. This one here doesn't have a vacant lot in the whole subdivision, which is a good use of land. But you'll notice again, it's not one of the small lots. Up here is Giorgio. That's another new one with about 140 lots. And I don't have the plan of that one on here, but it has a lot of towns in it, a lot of semis, and a lot of small lots with singles. That is probably, does give us the true density of 25 per hectare. And that's just approved. It's on the market now for sale, to sell the whole subdivision, but with a draft plan approval. It does have the draft plan. The other, Lit Corporation is the one right in the downtown corridor. You can see it across here. That's 10 units that were taken up on a brownfield type of development. And they were all fully rented before they even got built, and they're right beside our Heritage Square Park. And that was a nice little development there as well. So, okay. That means you're touching something you shouldn't.
That means April needs to come and.
Next. Oh, okay, good. So either using this or that, okay, good enough, thanks. You got it, glad let me try it now. Everybody likes to show you. Nobody likes to say. Okay, no, I got her now. I think I do, but just a second. Where were you? This is crazy. I did. Oh,
You have to right click back on your left.
Okay, good enough. Thank you very much. That's easier for me. There, look at that. This next one here is the Cedar East subdivision. And you'll notice all of these lots along here are semis. These are all semis. These are townhouses here. These are all semis. These are single family dwellings in this area. And these are single family dwellings as well that butt up against this forestry area. There was a phase 3 going in here and in this area where the gentleman that owned the bottom part of this property here attached to this large block, which is a triangular pie piece. And we're going to get a total of 4 or 5 lots out of that. And that'll round out that whole subdivision and the developable land that shows up in our official plan. And here's the Cedar West. This is your county road here. These are existing houses. This property has been bought up and will be turned into probably something to do with the park area. And the trail will follow along a little water course there. This road will come over through from the subdivision down below, the Bruce Berry one. And the Sagging River is along the north side of this subdivision. And then, of course, on the other side of that is our special policy areas 1 and 2. And I think there's a total of 98 lots or something on this side of the road. Now, this one probably isn't going to look like this after we apply the 25 acres, 25 lots per hectare. This plan was created. This is what they like to do. But I think most plans now, we end up with smaller lots. This is what the road looked like, and you'll be driving in this road, but this would have looked like not even 6 months ago. The road's done now, and they're actually building houses in this subdivision. That's Cedar East. That's due east the county road right there at Davis's garage, which is just past our water tower. This is where we talk about infilling. This is a house here. This is the street out here. There's a house here and a house here. This house here is what I guess Toronto refers to as backyard houses. There's actually a huge lot between two. And a house got built back in there. It went through zoning. One neighbor had questions and ended up with getting a fence. You can see all the fencing. And the other neighbors didn't have any issues with it at all. And it's a semi. It's actually 2 units, rented out. So it's a good use of land. Here's another one where this brand new house was built, and this house is rear yard. And that's up off of 13th Street and 7th Ave. And again, this is the other side of that house, and it's showing the clock, what kind of distances you can still keep between the other existing 2-story older home. These infill houses are really, I went back and did a little, how many we did before we even started doing it through the zoning. And we'd already done over 80 since the 1870s. So we were probably the king of back here, or side yard sandwiches, but we never applied the small lot deal. So we never ever let anybody do what they're doing now. Now they're going back grabbing the ones where they can't keep the front yard, or the rear yard, the side yard, and we're relieving that stuff and allowing those to be built. Thinking nobody should ever have a 12-foot rear yard. And you know something, they end up with a side yard that's bigger. It's just there's no complaints with it. People they become more affordable for sure, because the lots are cheaper. And we do a lot of this in town, and our zoning bylaw now accommodates this. Our zoning bylaw did a lot of little things with regards to, like I say, we lessen the lot areas. Our semis are now down to, rather than 10 meters or 9 meters, which makes a big difference now, with being rather than 32 feet, now it's just under the 30 feet for the 2. We're always doing minor variances and stuff like that. I don't know why it is. The lots are getting smaller, but the houses are getting bigger. I don't know why. And they're not stopping. The houses are still getting bigger. For instance, in Cedar East, most of the people want bungalows. The gentleman Kitchener is building 2 stories. So I think you got no other way but to go out. As you were saying, or saying here, you've got to go out. But we're really looking forward to continuing to monitor our zoning bylaw. And every 5 years, we try and do what's called a housekeeping. This is where we would actually make sure that our bylaw is in tune with people being able to build without going for zoning exemptions or minor variances, and still stay within the scope of the zoning bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Don't we find it a little bit strange or ironic, perhaps, as you mentioned, a lot of the pressure for buying properties is coming out of the larger urban centers. Why are they coming here? Most of them will tell you, well, I want to get out of the city. I want to get out of the pressure. And yet, with our zoning bylaws and what we're doing to them, we can't build a Etobicoke fast enough up here.
Right.
So, is the attraction going to be gone within 10 years and people that won't be happy with what they've got?
That's a good question. That's one I ask every time when somebody's out of town comes to the building. My number one question: where are you moving from? Why are you moving? All that type of stuff. 9 times out of 10, one of the couple was born and raised in this area, and they've been working in the city for 30, 40 years. And that's why they're back here. They're coming back. And we raised a lot of kids in Grey Bruce counties that went to the city because there's no jobs here for them. Well, get ready, because they're coming back. They've got well-paid jobs, and they're selling some very expensive homes. So that's what's going on, in my opinion. There's also the Torontonians finding this area being more relaxing, a better atmosphere to live in and to retire in. And it's not just Hanover, it's all over.
I understand.
That's all over.
We deal with it in
It's everywhere.
every urban
So
center.
we're trying to get our zoning bylaws so that we can make sure that it's a little bit smoother, quicker, faster, whatever. It's,
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think to respond to Councilor Miller, I think one of the reasons is yes, I want to get away from the state, but the other reason is also we're not 2 hours away from we can get away, right? I think that will always be an attraction. The police trail will always go through our county. So I think the proximity to those recreational activities is also an attraction. And I think it's important that we continue to push those recreational activities and protect those activities, because, like I said, at a certain point, we won't be the rural picturesque town anymore. We'll become another subdivision town, and that's fine, as long as we have those recreational activities close by.
Well, it's definitely our recreation stuff too is a big draw as well. But you realize we build recreation for not 7,500 people, we build it for 40,000 people. And that's who's using our system, so they fit in quite nice when they get here.
Word, Chair, just quickly, it seems to be a big thing that's driving and also is broadband. And I think Hanover has always had a higher speed broadband. How is that played out? Are you putting fiber to all your homes, or what's happening in that sense?
April?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, Hanover is a gig community, so we have the highest upload speeds, and all homes are serviced within the town limits.
And are they getting up fiber? Do you have fiber here? Like obviously.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over fiber, so that's the future in the sense of bandwidth is once you get fiber, it continues to grow, you have that ability, which is a selling feature as well. Right? So.
Definitely, we are leveraging that too, and we want to try to attract like the creative class, creative thinkers, so that people that don't have to be in infrastructure in Toronto, they can be here living and working. Yeah, definitely.
COVID-19 has really changed the.
Mm-hmm.
If you go outside of this building and go across the Heritage Square, the park just across the street, you'll have free Wi-Fi. It's quite popular with the travelers. I see people park in the parking lot there and use the Wi-Fi, while they also charge for free their electric vehicle.
I still don't get what they're doing, but it's a tricky thing, but this is right across from our hospital. It's a vacant field right now, just north of our cemetery, the Hanover Cemetery. It's fairly flat, plateau of land. This is where our future site of the long-term care facility will go. And the site plan that's been submitted to support that 132 bed, 128. Yeah, 128 bed. So it's went through all the department head committees and everything else. It's got site plan approval. And I think they're just in the middle of doing an easement for stormwater with the Hanover District Hospital. And it's slated to start sometime in October, which we're in October now. So we're looking forward to that project getting going. And that'll be a big one for probably a year and a half. This site used to be Fraser's on Second. And that's the house here, and this is where the restaurant used to be. It's being torn down at this point. This is looking at the house from the east side of the property being demolished. You'll drive around today and you'll see what it looks like today. Mary Sue did the ribbon cutting there last week, and it's completely done now. And it's the gentleman said that out of the 4 stations he has, this is probably his busiest one. And he's really happy with the location. And yep, and that's the site plan that was approved for it. The restaurant sat here, and it actually encroached onto the road allowance, and then the house sat here, and it encroached on the road allowance not as much. And the lot was vacant out in here between the county and the town. We gave up a little bit of Second Avenue here, Second Street, I mean. And then there's a street comes through here. And the original road coming down here was the original road, I guess, where one side of the road would have been, this would have been West Gray, and above this street here would have been John Hanover at that time in the 60s. So anyways, this little piece of road that's being left here would have been in Bantic after the annexation in 2000. This became Hanover. This little piece would have been Bantic, and it ended up going to the county's name because Bantic wouldn't probably take it. And then it went back, tried to go back to Bantic, stayed in the county of Gray, Meanwhile, Hanover's here, and it goes right straight through, even out onto the county road. So there's a little bit of an area here, as you're gonna see from my county council, where we need to straighten it up and get the legal work done on it. But basically, they ended up buying this. We bought this from the county, then they sold it to them, and then we sold them this portion, and that allowed this development to happen, which was really good working together type of thing. And it ended up making that site like really pleasing for coming into the town now compared to what was there. So hard work ends up getting something done. This is another gas bar sitting where Tender Pizza is today. It used to be, if you look at the building, it was a super test gas station in the 60s and early 70s. It's going to be demolished totally. And another gas bar will be going back in there again, but we removed gas bars out of the C1 zones because you just don't want gas bars with people driving over sidewalks when you've got a high pedestrian traffic. So but this area does not have a high pedestrian traffic. It's at the end of the commercial C1 zoning, and it did survive the zoning amendment. It's now going through the appeal period. This one's slated to start late fall, early spring. And it'll be another big addition to the town coming in from the west. This is another gas bar on our main street. When you're driving by right now, you'll just see some high hose there. It used to be the Brian McTavish Essel, and it has been demolished. And it's sat empty for, I don't know, let's say 5 weeks, 4 weeks. And now the reason is the building actually they took it down so fast. They allowed 6 weeks to get it down, clean the site up. It was all done within a week. So it's been sitting there. But the construction crew started in there this week, and we should see it move ahead further. This is a McEwen. They're out of the Ottawa area, and they have built some gas bars down in Wingham. I think Exeter, Clinton, and down towards Lutheran, something like that. So they're moving up this way now, and this will be their first in this area. Is there one of those down yet, Brian? A McEwen? No. What's that? Oh, is there one home? They are moving into the area. This is down at our, this is a micro cannabis thing. It was on my presentation, so I didn't take it out. This here is in place right now, and that is a shade for the fish, so they don't get stressed out with sunshine. So there's 1 million fish under there, trout. The building's about 300 and some feet long, and that's strictly to get the fish away to keep shade on it. And the conservation authority went along, that's right in a floodplain area, and we got it approved. Mind you, if it was a flood, I don't think there'd be much. The fish would be happy probably to get out of it. But anyways, we did have a cannabis grow thing, where they got the foundation in for it. And it was Ripple Farms at the time that were putting it together. It was going to be aquaculture, which the province and the Ministry of Ag are really promoting and looking after. A gentleman ended up having a fairly serious helicopter accident, and they ended up canceling the project. So it may come back, you never know. If that aquaculture is still fairly successful, and the fish manure is really good for that type of production. We did finally get our second Tim's, and it did go in the parking lot with a lot of persuasion with regards to shuffling some parking and making sure we had good traffic movement out on the road and on the mall site. It's in behind road in front of Food Basics, and it's been a welcome addition to the town. This is our Match, which is our restaurant that's attached to the casino. It's open again now, but under COVID rules, so it's only half populated. Food's always good there, and this was a major investment in the town. This is actually a well-done site with regards to eating or entertainment type site. And the horse racing did very, very well this year, along with the match, even though they're under the COVID. It's really funny watching a football game with no spectators, but it's really weird watching a horse race with no spectators. Like, it's just not the same. But anyway, we got through it. This is our new school, the high school, which we're all going to be proud of, and it's up and functioning and working very well. It's hard to believe it with kids being able to, function in the community and not cause all the. We've got parks that never got used before, and now getting a lot of use. use. Right behind this building, when you drive by, you'll see a chain link fence. That's West Gray again. Right, that is West Gray, and that's the Maggie Farm.
That to prevent people coming on this side or people going on that side?
Well, the chain link fence was there. We wanted the chain link fence.
And you made West Creek pay for it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But I'll tell you, we've had no complaints. Everybody seems to be happy, even the kids. And it's a big addition. Our old school is still sitting there. And we've got them trying to convert it into usable, affordable housing. But some of the people today that buy these buildings walk in with a set of drawings to change one classroom into 3 apartments. I said, what are you going to do with the other 50 classrooms? Oh, we'll bring you those drawings later. Well, we can't partially occupy a building like that. So, but that's the way they're coming to town. That's the way they want to do things. And it's very difficult to work with them on that thinking. They got to realize that we'd like to see a whole project. How many total apartments? What kind of apartments? What was it? So we are working on that, and that's a very large project as well to reutilize and repurpose that old school. This is our Whiteman telecommunication building, and it gets built, and 6 months or 8 months later, along comes COVID, and guess who can move into their houses and work without ever going to the office? Is people that work on communications. So there's barely 2 cars here. There's parking for about 80, because we'll never see more than 2 cars. And I guess they won't be back probably until, I don't know when they are. I can talk to a lot of the people in the high tech or the communication stuff. They're wanting to see the vaccine or they're wanting to see something else. For some reason, they can work from home and be more productive, is what they're proving. But that is a beautiful building, and that's in our industrial park. I think I got the end of mine there. So if there's any questions, we'd be pleased to answer them. As far as services go in town too, the town has efficient services without expanding our sewer or water treatment plant right now. If need be, there are an area where they can be expanded or made larger. The town is looking at within 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years, a new water tower. And at that time, we've got one that's aging enough that it's going to be needed replaced. And I think talking to Mr. Cooper, our Director of Public Works, it'll be made quite a bit larger. And then again, we'll be back in that. Our biggest user is Excelsior. They might use 250 some gallons of whatever, crazy no whatever. But I mean, that's how much water they use every time they change their tank. That could be twice or once a day or whatever. It's a lot of water. And they like to take the water out of our tower and it's the right temperature when it comes up from the ground. So there's a lot of games played when you get into manufacturing. But the sewage is the same way. We're all designed to go to the east. Of course, we know that's where our problems are, but so we have looked at going north. We've looked at a little bit going south, a little bit going west, but they're not large blocks of land. The services could probably be punched west without a big cost, but south is just not there without a lot of pumping stations and stuff like that. So we're east, the way we're designed right now, and north could be accommodated, but again, we got 2 counties and 2 municipalities, like 2 rural municipalities. Best thing to do is have West Gray / Hanover, and then we wouldn't have any problems at all. But I know it's a little hard to say, but it needs to be resolved someday because it's just a problem, right? So if there's any questions, thank you.
No? Brian?
Okay, yeah, so.
Mr. Ward, sorry, 1 second. One has a question.
So we talked about retiring or people coming back here. What's your plan for keeping young people here in the sense of, are you seeing any uptake on that in the sense of millennials or that? And I'm thinking in the sense of your industrial lands. Does that make a better argument if you're able to develop your industrial lands for current jobs or future jobs or high-tech jobs? Does that build your case in the sense of expanding or developing residential land somewhere else? So sometimes you gotta make that case, but if broadband is a new game changer for all age groups. I don't know if you have any comment on that in the sense of attracting not just or finding what's coming here as people coming back, but how do you keep people here? That's always, I know, we all get that as politicians, how do you keep your people here so they don't leave? But any thoughts on that part in the sense of, you know, you look at the millennials and you look at, you know, that younger working group, any thoughts or discussion on timing or thoughts for that for Hanover itself?
Maybe April. I have
So I would say Launchpad is our biggest physical infrastructure that you can see how we're investing in our youth. We're putting a lot of resources to that. We want to make it a regional center, and we're training our youth for the skills that they need to help fill the jobs that are in need in this area. So the programming is designed to meet those needs and then introduce the youth to those local opportunities. So we really want to let them know, you know, we know they have to go have their experiences, but we want them to know that they can come home and build life here. And I think we spoke to that earlier as well, we're starting to see that trend happen now. Also, we've put a big emphasis on our local culture because we want to create that quality of life and again, attract that creative thinker and that type of business. So then that would be your residential development versus your industrial, definitely. And we actually just received RED funding as well. So we're we're creating an attractions and retention campaign. And basically what it is, it's going to look at 4 pillars, and youth being one of them, culture, startups, and we're going to create all these programs basically for those very reasons, so that we can really emphasize the quality of living here, staying here, or coming back here.
Just to follow over that, so then from that, because, you know, part of this reason too is a place to raise a family, and by raising a family, recreation, I think the deputy or councillor Desai was talking about recreation and other activities that also drive, you know, like I know probably our age group and around, you know, maybe works 24/7. The new generation doesn't necessarily want to work all the time in the sense that they want recreation, they want that quality of life, and it's trying to find that sweet spot in the quality of life. And so I guess my bigger part to you, Mr. Chair, was it's about jobs. It's about jobs, about creating an opportunity. And I guess, you know, and so that industrial lines maybe makes your argument for your expansion of your residential part of that, and with broadband and everything like that. So I guess my last question would be is the price point for young people coming here. Is that a good also? Because, you know, we talked about the real estate change in the last 6 months. So is that also, is that attractive? But is that also a great attraction for families to come here as well? I guess that's your price point in your homes as well. Okay, any comments?
Yeah, through you, Chair. Yeah, so that is if you want to call it a selling feature or something that we try to promote, especially attracting people from out of the urban centers, basically saying the price for rentals, if they're available, and homes is definitely a significant difference, I guess, from the urban centers. But at the same time, our prices are being driven by those people that are selling out in the city and then coming up here and purchasing above asking. So it's a bit of a balancing act, right? And I think that speaks to the need for attainable housing, because I think we definitely have the, you know, the seniors or the private single dwelling homes, you know, they're in demand and they're selling, but we really need to pick up on that attainable housing piece so that we can attract those younger families and those young workers and that they have some options.
Councilor Young. Oh, no, Councilor O'Leary.
Thank you. I'm taller.
This is a room of rhymes.
Thank you. Don, you said you don't want to expand to the south without, or you can't without pumping stations. What's wrong with pumping stations? It's just strictly cost?
Yes, we've never had, they're not the best thing to involve with, because if there's power failures, you can have generators, and if the generator fails, you have backup equipment all the time. Your sanitary is always vulnerable. That's why you get insurance. But if you can design without one, it's the best way to go. That area down there is predominantly hazard and floodland. There's not enough land to go down there to support a pump. You know, that's the problem. You could put a small one in, and again, you'd have a problem with it. There's nothing wrong with Owen Sound's got pumps all over the place because you got nothing but mountains or hills on there. But the big thing is, they're big and they're well looked after and they're maintained on a daily basis. And smaller ones are not. They just don't get the revenue to do it. So we had 7 in town, and we now have 0. We've managed to reroute them and re-get them into other spots, and we no longer have that power failure and that call out and the generator quitting and running out of fuel. And it's just a different world. So you have to talk to the people in the field that work with them, and they'll tell you why. But that area down there, when you get out there and look around, when you get below the hill, there is some developable land down at the bottom, very little of it, probably less than half, and the rest of it's floodplain because of the river. And it does flood, I would say, annually. So it's a prone flood area, not just a frequent one. So that would be the problem there.
Brian, we're back to you, or I'm conscious of time, or are we on?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make one point to the warden's question about retaining people. So I think one of our primary objectives has always been not necessarily the primary objective has always been to create jobs, and not necessarily strictly for Hanover residents. Because as April said during her presentation, there's as many jobs in Hanover as there are residents. So we are Hanover is providing a lot of jobs for residents of Brockton, West Gray, Southgate, Owen Sound, people who daily travel here and work. And that's fine with us. 55% of our municipal staff doesn't live in Hanover. And we're good with that. Because we know that what we do as far as job creation is important for the region and for the county, so that your residents can pay their taxes, even though they're working in Hanover. So, it's again, it's not always about, it hasn't always been about Hanover. Okay, I mean, obviously we've got some issues here, and I think we've made a case for that today. But we continue to support our neighbors and every opportunity we can. So the problem, sometimes we draw the line, okay, because they come here, they work here, and then they think they have a right to complain. And in some respects, that's fair, okay. But when they complain about our roads or whatever, right? So, and we get that all the time because I think they live here. Okay, but so we listen to them all the time. But that's fair. It's all fair. So Jeff, unfortunately, had to take a call. So that didn't work out very well. And I'm not, but Don should be in a position, okay? Because he was there on last Monday. So we had an issue with one of our, what do I call it, affordable housing units in the downtown area. And we'll take a drive by there. So Don, maybe you could elaborate a little bit on some of the overlying issues associated with that. But what happened was that there was a fire Monday morning, and I came into work about 7:30, and the 10th Street was completely blocked off with fire trucks and police. And I'm thinking, police in the forum, and police is called the forum. And so we're thinking that maybe there was a medical issue or something, but it happened that there was a fire. And then Don was also called in that morning, and an inspection ensued. So Don, I don't know if you want to just talk on a high level as to what some of the issues are. Okay, in there?
Yeah, well, Jeff not being here, I'll give a little bit of my perspective. But yes, I did get a call to attend the Hanover Inn, and there had been a call. There was smoke, started fire in the basement. So immediately when they get there on a building like that and the Main Street area like that, it was early in the morning, they blocked off the Main Street, for good planning reasons, I guess. If it did turn into a Main Street fire, they already had a place blocked off and all the fire trucks in the right position to do what they had to do. But the fire got put out very quickly with some extinguishers in the basement. It was started, I think, with a cigarette or something in some garbage or whatever. There was somebody occupying the basement, which they were not supposed to be doing. And there's people occupying the first floor, which they were not supposed to be doing. So Jeff took some pictures, 150. I think we have, what he's got here. This is some of the ones he said, what could he show? I said, well, if you show anything you want, as long as you're showing something that's not good, and I can't identify anybody. So these are just some pictures, but that's the kind of fire separations you're seeing. That's looking up into a ceiling area. And all the drywall up above it's been damaged as well. So there's lots of room for fire to take off if it ever did get started. All of the upper apartments were something like this for smoke alarms and fire alarms, and everywhere was just basically, that's a whole fire separation removed between two units because they'd taken an ensuite out of it. But the whole building was in very, very bad shape. When I got to there on the main street, they were still bringing people out, a lot of dogs, a lot of cats, and a lot of confused people being disrupted and taken away from their place of comfort, which is as bad as it was. A lot of needles, a lot of drugs, not a nice thing to actually look at, but they seemed to be happy. They just didn't want to leave that environment. And those are the vulnerable people paying rent today. And most of them come with some sort of a mental issue. And some don't. That's the really sad part about it. Some of those units up there were well kept, very nicely done, and people that go to work. But it's very cheap. You can stay there for $400 a month or whatever. But you have to put up with all that other nonsense if you're the type of person that can do that. The people living on the first floor was very bad. In fact, two of the ones occupying were occupying the cooler, which has got a great big door. If anybody's ever looked at a cooler for beer, the only way they could get out was push on the panic button and the big door would open with the latch on the outside. And then they cut a hole in the wall to get some air into that area. And there were two gentlemen in there and two dogs, and they weren't friendly dogs. I think Rob got his uniform a little bit bit on the back, but couldn't get anything any further. So it was a matter of getting people out of the building, trying to find if we did manage to get them all out. When I said when I went there, I liked everybody out of it. We went through the building. We found one gentleman having a shower. He didn't even live there. He just thought he'd drop by for a shower. So there's all kinds of stuff like that when you talk to these people, and you feel sorry for them. And they're living a normal day, right? As far as, but having to leave that building wasn't normal. It was actually pretty sad. But we ended up letting them back in under some rules. There had to be an hourly walk guard go through the building. There was no occupancy on the first floor or the basement, period. And to be checked every hour to make sure nobody was there. As quick as you walk through that building, there were weapons behind you. That's the problem. We had the police there at home as well. So it was just very difficult to control. And it's the type of people renting. And it's not a case of another fire, it's just when there's going to be another one type of thing. And you got to be ready for it. They've been called there 3 times that week with 3 false alarms. This was the 4th time they were there. So that was why they were wanting more or less the building to be vacated, I think.
So,
But Jeff, I think that's what you wanted to, Brian?
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks. Yeah.
So I think everyone should know that this is a former hotel.
Yes.
That was a functioning hotel. There was rooms upstairs and, a bar downstairs, and now it's affordable housing. And there was what, 21
rooms upstairs.
live upstairs.
Some of them with bathrooms, most of them not. But those rooms were well kept in the 90s. They were cleaned every day. And a lot of working people stayed there when they come here for 2 or 3 days to work. I don't know if anybody remembers those days, but a lot of the old inns had rooms upstairs and people stayed in them, but they were travelers or commuters. They weren't the people that were on drugs and what we got there now. There's a lot of drug paraphernalia when you go through these apartments.
so to highlight the county perspective, Barbara, if you don't mind, I call on you.
Sure.
One of the questions that I put out immediately was how many county supported individuals live in this particular unit. perhaps Barbara, you can shed some light on that.
Sure, I can, thank you. I was working from home that day on vacation, but when you're on vacation, you still work. So I received a call that we needed to find out how many folks were in those units. And I have staff, fortunately, that work in an office right on the main street here in Hanover, and they knew immediately that we had 17 recipients of social assistance in that building. And that we also knew we had some folks on ODSP in that building. And it boils down to, it is the only housing available for some of our residents who are most vulnerable. And so it boils down to the cost. It's how lifestyles are tolerated and quality of life that's acceptable. It's interesting that the comment was made by Don that in the 90s, this was quite acceptable. Those units were quite acceptable. I was a caseworker for social assistance back in the 90s, and I did have clients that lived up there, and I've been up there. But 25 years later, it is not the same. It's a very different environment. And so we engaged with our partners immediately. We have what's called the plan, and I think most of you know the plan, which is a post-crisis, get this right, post-crisis long-term assistance network. Anne Marie staff, staff from the Y Housing, Victim Services, Red Cross, Salvation Army, Bruce Gray Child and Family Services. We have a network that we gather a couple times a year just to keep each other updated on what's happening and how we will respond in this kind of a situation. Because the emergency responders have a job to do. They're responding for fire, police, paramedic services. But the people need more assistance. They need that next level. So that's the responder piece that the plan agencies work through. And so we, my staff were able to mobilize quickly. They knew many of these folks. They were aware of some of the issues and challenges that people are faced with. And they were able to gather their networks together without violating confidentiality, without, throwing someone under a bus that really is a victim and needs help. And so I think we're at a point now, there was still some spillover. Monday was it. In the end, we worked through some challenges, and I think there were 4 folks that needed to be rehoused on a temporary basis, looking for something more permanent. And there were a couple that were just, we couldn't track them down because that's what happens too. People don't have phones, or they're not able to be connected. So they're continuing to seek out those individuals to ensure that their safety needs are met.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a good story for council, because we seem to do a lot of talking about affordable housing, but that's all we do is talk. Don, do you have fire prevention or fire inspection in Hanover?
Yes, we do. And excuse me, Rob Hagan was there along with the chief and the deputy chief. And I forgot to mention too that we were there from 8 o'clock till 12 noon. They took a total of 150 some pictures. We met as a group afterwards with the Hanover Police Services and the owner. We had the owner with us all through, or the owner's representative was with us through the whole inspection as well. It's kind of requested that he be with us. At the end of the day, there was about, I think, 18 smoke alarms went in prior to anybody starting to occupy that night. The walkthrough was set in place, and this was all through fire prevention. And it was an actual compromise rather than having all these people homeless type of thing. So they wouldn't have been that way. I understand they were looking at other alternatives, but I think they were happy, the ones that got back into their area. But the fire department did an excellent job, and the police came around at the end of keeping people away and looking at some of the more serious issues with some of the residents. But yeah, the residents were happy at the end of the day. We ended up with a safer environment. People got back into their units, and we are still putting the report together of what they pulled together in pictures, and it'll be Rob putting it together. He's away on training right now, but that's probably, they did an excellent job. Every room was went into, every closet was looked into. We just went through the whole building, and it'll be brought up to standards. The owner has since called and hired an architect, And we'll be doing drawings for as-built drawings and then go from there on what needs to be renovated. So a lot of good come out of what happened there, but it was a serious matter.
So, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I just want to say one thing. I'd be amiss if I didn't personally thank Barb and Anne Marie and their teams for dealing with this quickly. Because, to be quite honest, there were some emails back and forth with, is it Brenda, with the Ontario Works?
Andrea.
Andrea?
Andrea.
So, and then there was this suggestion that we establish an evacuation center. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? In the middle of this pandemic, now we got to establish an evacuation center. Although it had to have certain criteria, separate rooms in case people had any COVID-related symptoms, and it just went on. I'm panicking. I'm thinking, oh my God. So anyway, Andrea took the bull by the horns, so to speak, and dealt with the 4 to 6 people that were ultimately had to find new accommodations or new arrangements. So again, thank you very much for responding quickly.
Yes, I have to say that I was quite proud to be part of the county. Really, really proud of the county staff and that response. I was telling Barb this morning, felt like love. Because you feel, honestly, people were just dispatched and Hanover became supported. So the county role was, to me, exemplary. That's what a county should be doing in terms of supporting the local municipalities. This is probably a good segue into why this task force, one of the reasons why this task force was created, to address Hanover and Owen Sound's particular need around some of the social issues that are compounded and centralized in Hanover and Owen Sound, like homelessness, like mental health. It is really here, and it's funny that that issue happened on Monday and highlighted for us really what we have going on here in Hanover. Barb, I know we're well beyond our time, but for some of the people around the table, you may know that Hanover in particular faced a crisis around meth. And so the county actually, is it the county that created the meth task force?
Yes, so we galvanized with, it was actually Hope Ray Bruce, working in conjunction with former Mayor Kathy Masco and former Mayor Charlie Bagnetto from Brockton. And they recognized that there was a community issue happening and parents were calling and family and friends because there was petty crime happening, homelessness, people were scared, families were scared of what was happening to their family members who were trying meth once and, becoming very addicted quickly, and community had been invaded by drugs that we'd never seen before. We were very fortunate. I was saying earlier, I grew up in the South Line, so I'm actually from this area. And for us to see the change for the communities like Walkerton, Hanover, Chesley, Markdale, Durham, was kind of this little area where if you concentrated your efforts in one community, those folks would pick up and move to the next community. So we needed to find out a bit more about why and how it was happening. And so we formed a task force, and Kathy was extremely impactful in how she responded to residents in this community, as was Charlie. And the counties responded in such a way that they did allocate funding to address that task force, which then brought in all kinds of other partners, the partners that were needed to be there: health, policing, lawyers, and so it was all of the pieces that needed to be there, and very high decision makers were at the table. So I have been that chair for way longer than I have started out to be, but we had changes in agencies, we've had changes in staffing, and so my heart's there, so I wouldn't withdraw my leadership until I felt like there was an ability to carry on. We are no longer the Crystal Meth Task Force. That was one particular focus. When we really got in, and public health is a big part of it too, and when we really got into some of the elements of what's happening in these communities, we recognized it was alcohol, it was prescription drugs, it was like the addictions is a big piece that isn't just focused on one drug. And the impact is so vast that we are now called the Community Drug and Alcohol Strategy. And so we have a leadership table that meets quarterly, and we have a steering committee of several, so myself and my partner, Christine McDonald in Bruce County, partners in health, and Krista Miller, the police, sorry, I've forgotten her title, but she's the shoreline police chief commander. And so we have this network where we continue to work towards strategies that will help our community. But we're not anywhere near fixing or addressing it. You can see we've got issues in Owen Sound. We have issues in small towns. And so it's not just a big city issue. And I think some of our challenges are that we need to change the lens. We've got our residents who they're not the perpetrators, they're the victims. And we have to look at who's bringing those drugs here, how are they getting here, and where are they coming from, and how do we address that? So is that what you were looking for?
I think we're looking towards wrapping up, Brian, are we?
Yes, so Rob, how's this work then with the tour?
So you would have had an invite sent to you, and you would have got a reminder this morning. And if you go into that invite, there's a call-in number on the bottom. There's like 7 different options, but if you call the first 1647 number, enter the meeting passcode on your phone, then you can be on speakerphone or whatever you need to do to be hands-free as you're driving around. And then that'll be captured in the recording. There's going to be no video or anything for this portion of the tour. It'll just allow you to basically be on a teleconference as you're going around.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, I can narrate. Okay. Do you want to drive, and I'll go with you, or?
Sure.
Okay. And everybody will follow. So, is that right?
Sound good?
Do you have a number again?
Sorry, so just to wrap up a bit on the social stuff, I know we're gonna have a focused meeting in the future around social issues and another one on policing. But just to follow up on what Barbara was saying, Hanover and Owen Sound, as we know, tend to have a centralization of poor people with challenges around drug and alcohol, mental health, obviously poverty, domestic abuse, which all impacts policing. So we're going to come to that, but just to say that was one of the reasons why we thought we would create a task force in the first place. And we're beginning to see preliminary discussion anyway on some of those issues which are really important. All right, I think we are ready to adjourn for now. Yeah.
Is this being recorded?
Yes, that's how we're meeting the public meeting requirement.
Should we take a picture so we're already captured?
Yeah.
We were, yes. Okay, so we're going to adjourn for now.
We're going to recess?
A recess, yes, thank you. So keep us in line, not adjourning, we are recessing.
Okay.
Just checking if we're on.
Okay, I guess I can talk now. Okay. All right.
Right, just so everyone listening is aware, when you're on the phone,
Okay.
So where are you guys heading to?
So it would really make me happy if the chair sort of said Avengers Assemble and then we all roll out.
Oh, so we're still in the parking lot, Cash?
Yeah, I just pulled up behind the white truck and that's the two Bryans.
Oh, okay. Good.
And a gentleman that I was not introduced to by the honorable member from Owen Sound.
Oh.
Because
Oh,
that hand that's waving, that's the honorable member from Southgate.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, I'll follow the yellow car. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Brian speaking here. So I'm with Selwyn's. We're just heading out. We're gonna head out of the parking lot toward and to 11th Avenue and head south. So we'll just go around there and then down. Okay. We can get by all these vehicles.
Gee, somebody's got a brand new Chevy truck.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way.
Yeah. Turn around there, or back in and then, yeah. Bumblebee.
Yeah, yep. You won't miss me. If I get lost, you'll know. All right.
Going this way, Selwyn?
Oh,
So,
sorry.
yeah, so our other south.
The other south, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Just straight through. Everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Lutheran Manor on our left. There's a number of, how is that funded? Owen?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's funded by Gray County.
Oh, perfect.
It's one of our nonprofits. We have 9 throughout the county.
Okay.
It is run by a separate board.
Glad I'm on this tour.
So quick question about Lutheran Manor, if I may. Is it strictly subsidized housing in the sense of it's rent geared to income and seniors, dedicated housing and so on? Or is there a market rent section to it as well?
There is a market rent section to it too. It is probably about 20% market rent and 80% RGI, and it is owned and by the Lutheran Church, but it is funded by Gray County through the province.
Thank you.
County housing.
Okay. Also to the right, where we just parked here, that's also county housing. Anne Marie, anything to add to that?
No, we have 3 buildings of county housing, this one and 2 others, and for a total of 55 units. They are all RGI units. And then we also have 8 family semi-detached, and so 4, so a total of 8 units. So we have a total of 63 subsidized units in Hanover.
Very good. So we're going to go, we're going to go left up here. We have the right of way. So the subdivision to your right, we're going to keep going, so the subdivision to our right is the southernmost part of the developed area of Hanover. And we'll just turn right up and go through our business park. Throughout the tour, we're going to try and stick as close to our boundaries as possible. There's a few places we have to jut in and out, but other than that, we can pretty well surround the town in about 45 minutes. So there's not many units left in the business park. So the search for industrial land has begun already. We think the best alternative will be north, near that hydro corridor.
So how long ago was this set up or created, this park?
That was before me, so 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it developed very quick then.
Yeah, at least 20 years, but maybe a little longer. The Whiteman building is on the right here, what Don spoke of. That was just built last year.
Are we taking a pit stop up here?
I beg your pardon?
Are we taking a pit stop up here?
No. Oh, at McLean's? No, we can always come back though if you want.
Just kidding.
So quick question about McLean's in terms of water consumption. Where do they fit in? Because I'm do they take in-town water, or what goes on with that?
No, every business here is on municipal water. As a matter of fact, that was one of the attractions to Hanover was not only the supply but the quality of our water.
Well, you got to have good water to make good beer, right?
Yeah, yeah. There was a question about our capacity for water. We use about 40% of our supply right now. Our water comes from two sources. We have artesian wells in in Brockton, just outside the municipal boundaries, and Rural Lake, which we get about 50% of our water from. It also is in Brockton. So our forefathers were pretty smart. They took care of our water supply, even though it was in a different municipality. Our landfill is also in Brockton. We own that and share, and it's a partnership with Walkerton. Yeah. And we're going to go right up at the stop sign here.
Well, it looks like everybody's working. Lots of cars in the parking lots.
How much we're on and this street has issues.
Yeah. So this is, we're going to go right through the stop sign, stop first though. And we're going to do this a turnaround down at the bottom. So it's our hope and dreams that this road will ultimately go all the way to Gray Road 28. Unfortunately, it'll have to go through West Gray and a Magwood family farm property. To the right is was proposed to be our alternative medical marijuana plant or processing plant. That hasn't come to tuition. Fortunately, though, there is some interest still in reviving that, so we're still talking to them. So yeah, so where we're going to turn around is the eastmost limit of Hanover, and beyond that guardrail, you're in Brockton, or I'm sorry, in West Gray.
And there's the barn.
The barn is to your north.
Yeah, as I said, there's the barn.
Yeah, so within 600 feet of that, we cannot develop. Yeah, we'll go by the school. Okay.
That's the driving road there, no.
Yeah. So the road, actually you see the big screen for the drive-in. If you look to your east, that's the drive-in road, or Gray Road 28. We own property along there, but it's all in West Gray.
People might think we're in a funeral procession.
Turn your headlights off. Okay, so we're going to turn here. If we go left, that's where the Trout Farm is, the Blue Spring Trout Farm. And as Don indicated, it's in a hazard area, but they're there because of the nice supply of water that they get down there for their trout. We're going down 18th Avenue now. The subdivision to the left is now completely full, and that basically took 2 years. And the high school is to our right. And again, you see the chain link fence along the high school property, and that separates us from West Gray.
These are nice looking homes on the left here.
I'm sorry, Paul?
These are nice looking homes.
Yeah, those are all either Barry's construction or Can Do out of Durham. What's his name? Preamble. And it's nice to see some cars at the high school. This field to the left is still owned by a farmer. there's a crop that comes off of there every year, and you know, it's actually, I shouldn't say he's owned by a farmer. He rents the land out. It's actually an OPP officer that owns that land. So we're hoping at some point he decides to sell it or develop it or something. It's you know, it's vacant land. It's sitting there that could be residential easily.
How many units could be in there?
Yeah, this is where we turned around.
Yeah.
Okay. We just put the sidewalk to the right. What we found was that the kids were walking. They didn't want to go to the left side of 18th Ave. They were walking on this side. So council, rightfully so, said there's a safety issue here. So we just put this sidewalk in. And it's been hydrated. So. Yeah, and this is the Hope Community Church that Don spoke about, and some of the issues we had with getting permission from the owner of the barn or to build an addition. However, the addition stays outside of the 600-foot arc, but there was still some agreement, lots of legal fees back and forth to get all that figured out, even though it's in Hanover. Okay, we're going to go right at the lights.
The only lights of their kind, county pilot, smart lights.
Oh, okay. Yeah, these are, as Selwyn indicated, these are smart lights. So they actually monitor traffic, but also will turn, from my understanding, depending on what traffic is coming through.
What type of traffic?
Right. So everything on the right-hand side, there's about 240 feet from 10th Street that is in Hanover, and you can see the boundaries, and everything else is West Gray. Now the farmer, he actually owns a little bit of land in Hanover. You can see the cornfield here. But again, prime developable land that's tied up for all intents and purposes. We're going to go left public light. Yeah. So as soon as we're past the red light here, or past the street light here, traffic light, we'll go to the left, and because we're going to turn left up at the next set of lights. So you can see where the cornfield separates us from West Gray. The LCBO and the Shoppers Drug Mart on your right here is the limit of Hanover, and then you're into West Gray again. We won't go to Walmart, but you know where Walmart is, and again, that's at the easternmost of Hanover. Yeah. And on the left, that's Hanover's finest. Go by.
Yeah.
We'll just pull up here till everybody catches up. These lands on your right are in Hanover, and actually we'll take a right at the bottom of the hill. And we'll just take a quick drive through a new subdivision that's in the process of being developed right now. Fire truck must have been coming. So just so you know, we have agreements with West Gray and Brockton. We're going to turn right here to respond to fires within a certain area because we can get there quicker. So this is Cedar East subdivision. And you'll see that there's several towns and semis being constructed right now. We'll go right here, so I'm going to just take a quick ride. There's actually 4 different contractors in here, or 4 different builders right now. And it joined up with Kramer's subdivision. We'll go through there in a bit. My understanding is that although they're semis and townhouses, they're not going to be what we would consider affordable. Again, you know, the market is driving higher priced housing at this point. We'll go left here. Yeah. We'll go left. So you can see Walmart to your right up at the top here. And that's, again, the limits of Hanover. And this subdivision ends here. Actually, there'll be a section that goes in to, that'll be a cul-de-sac at the end. And there'll be another subdivision going where you see the backhoe down where we're driving now. There's only about 4 or 6 units in there, though, I think. And it's owned by a different owner. The property is owned by somebody else. So by the sounds of things, they're going to be building all winter, provided they can get the foundation. You see our water tower straight ahead. It's about 1 million gallons. That's our newer water tower. It's not the one that has to be replaced. We'll go right here. So these 2 subdivisions have joined with this little road here. So this is, we're now entering Brenly subdivision. And they started building 2 years ago. So yeah, we'll go straight ahead, Selwyn, I think, because the primary builder is Whaling. But as you can see, they're pretty high-end semis. I think the prices were north of 600. And there's some nice semi-detached or single family as well.
So are some of these custom built, like somebody's bought the lot and they built their own home, or is it by a builder?
No, Whaling Home Construction is the builder.
I just noticed it looked like the log one,
yeah,
or whatever it was.
Yeah, that one's separate. That one's, I guess the Kramer must have separate, or must sold that lot separately or something. Kind of doesn't look in place with all these other ones, but whatever.
Maybe it funded the road.
Yeah. So we'll go right at stop sign here. And this is still Gray Road 28, or 24, 28, 24. 28. 28. Right. Okay. There was a cement factory to your right here. When Kramer bought the property for his subdivision, all that equipment was taken out. So right about now, to your right, before the bridge, we're now West Gray. So 28th Avenue ends, and now we're in West Gray. So that house to the right is in West Gray. And everything to the right, past the bridge, up to the bypass road is in West Gray. Everything to the left is Hanover, obviously, and you can see the hydro easement with the transmission corridor coming through.
A quick question with regards to the transmission corridor. How far do you have to be from it in order to develop housing of any kind?
Great question, and that's part of our growth plan, our phase 2, and the consultants will be advising us on how far away, but there is definitely some restrictions, not so much for industrial land, but definitely for housing. We just don't. I just can't answer you precisely right now. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we'll turn left at the stop sign here. Again, these 3 corners are all West Gray. And everything on the right-hand side of the bypass road is in West Gray. Paul, you would know. What do they do with the plastic that they used to wrap hay?
Well, that's a good. You asked a good question, because a few years ago there was a company out of Guelph called Think Plastic that they were using it for 2x4s and 2x6s, and then economics didn't justify itself, and I think they were making fence posts too, but the cost at the end of the day just wasn't feasible, and I guess they weren't selling. So basically right now, I know they are still collecting it to a certain degree if you package it up as a farmer and deliver it, or there's a guy I think was coming around picking it up, but generally it goes in the landfill. It's unfortunate that they can't come up with a way of recycling it that's sustainable.
Yeah, that is too bad. I've heard stories too of some farmers are burning it, so I hope that's not happening.
Yeah, ideally we had a spot at our landfill, our landfills in Grey Highlands that we were storing it, and then our contracts with the ones that were taking it stopped, and we ended up having to bury it. It's right. I argued against it. Could we not just stockpile it, and maybe someday somebody, maybe come up with a way, because once it's in the ground, right? But right. Yeah, it's. I just don't understand why we just can't get there. You think, it's everything else can be recycled, and why we can't recycle that. But part of the problem is the cleanliness of it, and dirt was a factor as well, and right. Hay and stuff like that. But you think in today's day we could figure out something?
Right. You think so? So the properties everything to the left, these lots are fairly large, and they go all the way to the river. So you'll see some residential here. Our services don't come all the way up here, so everybody's on their own water and septic. If the plan is, if our consultants tell us that this is the place or the direction that we need to develop, the second part of that will be our engineers advising how we can get services up here. But right now, as you can appreciate, it will cost a fortune to get water and sewer up to these areas at this point.
Why not this is where the road could potentially go through?
Yeah. So the road, there's an area to the left here where a road could go through that would tie into an industrial area. Another area that we could access, we could also access it off of 7th Avenue, because we'd have to purchase some land from Hydro, and we'd have to follow our rail land. The rest would all private property. So we'll go left we'll go left up at the stop sign here.
So quick question, could you give part of this land back into West Gray to get other lands? Is that ever a consideration, like a trade?
Everything's on the table right now. We just need somebody, we just need everybody to get to the table. That's the problem. You know, I get it. You know, everybody's backs are up, you know, when you mention Hanover and the need for land. But, you know, you think in this day and age that, with all due respect, politics would be set aside and we do what's right for everybody. But, you know, we're trying. So, the right to the right here, the shell is actually in West Gray. The other corner is Brockton, and everything actually to the west as we go down 7th Avenue is in Brockton. And this this is Bruce Road 10, which is basically the Bruce Gray boundary. So all this assessment that you see on the right, basically on the right-hand side of the center line, is Brockton. And it's Brockton until we get to the bridge coming up, and then it's Hanover. And Hanover only goes a little ways to the west because the river follows, and obviously, you know, it's a hazard area. Yeah, hydro transmission station to the right, to the left. And there's a subdivision further into the left. It's called the Giorgio subdivision. That's the land is for sale right now, but they pretty well have their site planning in place. So hopefully at some point that'll be developed as well.
Everything on the right is still Brockton.
Yeah, so everything is still Brockton on the right. All right, so everything to the right here now is in Hanover, and you see the left is our power our power dam is the dam at Hanover. We were actually trying to get generate. We had a proposal from a company that wanted to put in a small hydro generating station in there, and unfortunately, the IESO program is no longer in place. Yeah, to the right is our wastewater treatment plant. Our water treatment facility is actually in Brockton near the airport. Yeah, Danny's is to the left. For those that don't know, they just built 8 new silos at P&H to the left here, so they're thriving. So that's good to hear. I'm guessing, but I think there's about 200 employees. If you look to your left on any of these streets, you'll see dead ends, and that's basically, a big part. What did I say? My left? My other left. If you look down to the right, you'll see dead ends, and that's basically the end of Hanover's development areas. And then we get into river area. So we'll turn right at the lights here. I want to point out the 420 high time. Brand new business on the corner here. Yeah. Not our proudest moment, but it's business, I guess. What's the gentleman's name from Leaford? Just
Councilor Desai, Akash?
Yeah. Akash asked about, height. So this is one of these, this is a 6-story unit, and that's about as high as we go as far as residential at this point, as Don indicated. So everything on the right is still Hanover, and it's Hanover until we get to the bridge that's coming up. Interestingly enough, I'm going to point out the last house on the right-hand side before we turn off here is actually in Brockton. So we don't pick up their garbage, and they pay double water and sewer charges, which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. So we're going to go left up at 3rd Ave here. So this house here is in Brockton. Our landfill is just past the river on the right-hand side. In Brockton.
How long has it been a landfill?
We got about
operation.
We got about well, the way our recycling efforts are right now, we're pretty strong with recycling. We could stretch this out to 30 years.
How long has it been?
Oh, how long has it been here? Ooh, I don't know, Selwyn, what do you think? 30 years, 40 years? We've had a number of we have a number of other sites in and around town that are historic sites. At that time, but I think it's been in place for probably 30, 40 years. Okay, so we're just going to go by, we're going to go left up here. We're just going to go by the current village, which is the Rivera, operated long-term and supportive housing, or, units, so. I was going to say. Right. Yeah, so assisted living.
How many beds long-term is here?
Ooh, good question.
The long-term care is on the left.
Yeah.
Assisted living is on the right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know the amount of beds currently.
Yeah. I'd be guessing. I don't know. Yeah, so we're going to go right here a little bit, and then we're going to go left. So again, trying to keep you close to the boundaries. Yeah, and then we'll go left, right at the Canada flag. Yeah, it's getting a little congested.
Lots of visitors today.
Yeah. Yeah, and still, they're not even allowing anybody in there right now for visitors. And even if you are visiting, you have to be tested every 2 weeks. You can only go visit once every 2 weeks.
So those would be employees, and were they employees working? I guess.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. And the only reason I know all that is because my father-in-law is in there. So my wife is very good at getting tested. She's probably been tested about 10 times now. So that she can go and visit her dad. So we'll go through this stop sign. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is 6th Avenue. We're going to go right here. And straight ahead on 6th Ave is the previous John Diefenbaker Secondary School, the one that's been sold from the school board to a buyer. My understanding is that it sold for about $500,000, and then it was on the market about a month later for 2.8. Much to our chagrin, because we were hoping that somebody would be doing something with it. However, it's come to our attention that this developer is now interested in affordable housing. We're going to go right here. So obviously we hope that comes to fruition. Yeah.
So how many kids' school was this school? You know, what?
The kids were in the school.
Oh, I'm not sure. I think up to 800 at one time, maybe 1,000. Yeah, yeah.
It's a big school.
I don't know. Is anybody on the tour that actually went there? Savannah, did you go there? I don't know if Savannah's with us. Maybe not.
These sort of look like wartime homes, eh?
Yeah, these homes have probably been here since furniture factory days. I would think that that kind of.
Out there, Brian, you were right. It was about 1,000 was the high.
Okay. Current school, I think, said they were built for 600, but I think that between the lines they could put in over 1,000 at that school. You would hope they wouldn't underbuild it.
When I went to school in Grey Highlands in grade 9, for the first half of the year, I had to share a locker, and we had that time I think it was up to almost 1,600 kids in Grey Highlands. But we had to, it wasn't designed that way, but we had to share lockers just to accommodate.
Right. So the little walkway you see here to the right leads to our trail system. Our trail system goes all the way from Grey Road 28, right by the bridge where we passed, where we drove by the new subdivision, and follows the old rail line all the way to, well, past here up to whatever, what's that road that goes by the cemetery? I don't know what that road is. Yeah, it's in Brockton. So we can't build any further to the right here or to the east. This is maxed out too. There are some nice houses in here, and they, they're right along the rail or right along the trail, so they've got some nice pieces of property in here. No, we'll just keep going and then turn left. We'll go around that last crescent and come back the same way. Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back that way. So we'll just take a left here and drive around the crescent, but straight ahead is basically is all Brockton.
The other thing I noticed, not too many. I haven't seen too many for sale signs.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody's happy in Hanover, I guess. Hey, Selwyn.
I am. Really?
What's that? Yeah. This one? Yeah, the Swiss Chalet here, up on your right. I'm not sure what the story is there, but. Oh, did he? Yeah. Oh, okay. Passed away. Yeah. Oh, recently? Oh, well.
Honestly, point out that we have clear garbage bags and policy because a lot of them don't.
Yeah. Someone wanted me to point out that if you're a garbage pickup, you have to, company that picks it up has to see your garbage, so that's why we use clear bags. It's one way of deterring recycling, because there's really no need for throwing your recycling and garbage these days. So, and you're allowed one white bag for personal items. So we're going to go right at 3rd Street here.
How long have you had that program in place with the clear bags?
Yeah, Selwyn's estimated about 15 years. It was in place long before I got here, for sure.
Okay. I was just curious how that first year went.
Oh, it's always tough. And, you know, as you know, every time you introduce bag tags too, you know, the sky's falling. But you know what? People get used to it. And you know, the bag tag not so much as a revenue thing as a opportunity to force people to recycle, because recycling is free.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you very rarely do you see any more than one can or one bag out. And there's really no need. I mean, personally, I could put out one bag every 2 weeks.
I have a family of 6 of us, and we put out one bag a week.
Yeah. Selwyn says he has, how many you got? 10? No. Selwyn's got 6. So he puts out one bag a week, you know. And we put out mine. We put out. Oh, go ahead.
And sorry, just a quick question about the frequency of collections. Is it garbage and recycling every week, or every 2?
Garbage is every week, and recycling is every 2 weeks.
So that these streets are extra wide. Is that for lots of parking? Is that the idea?
I'm sorry, what's that? I'm sorry, Paul.
The street's very wide, and it's like back of the residential side. It seems like a lot of space for the street. Is that for parking on the side? Is that why it's so wide?
You know what, Paul? That's a great question. When I first moved to Hanover, I thought we landed planes on these streets, because they are. And be quite honest, at this day and age, they're not very efficient. Because if we're going to right here on 7th Ave, because to plow a road like some of those roads, you got to take four to 6 passes. It's kind of a waste of land. There's no doubt about it. But the history as to why, I really couldn't tell you.
Maybe you need to put a row of tiny homes down the middle.
Yeah, well, that might have a little bit of pushback on that. So to the right,
it would be an effective traffic calming measure.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, we're going to go right here. To the right, to our immediate right, where you see physical therapy, to the left of that is Grey County EMS paramedic services. That's our old water tower. I'm thinking it's about 400,000 gallons. It has to be replaced in the next 3 or 4 years. Hanover District Hospital is to the right. It's in Hanover. And then right past the parking lot is the hospital. We're into Brockton again. Yeah, we'll turn around. Okay, so
how old is this hospital?
Tough questions. Yeah, the medical clinic was built about 20 years ago. I know that. So the hospital was here before that. I'm guessing 30, 35 years.
Okay.
Yeah, helipads down there. Now we're into Brockton. There's actually, in this area and down below, there's actually developable land. There's a landowner that owns the horse farm, boarding stables down below, that is actually very, very aggressive in prompting Hanover to expropriate that land. And he's talked to Brockton as well. So servicing would be quite possible, and there is an opportunity for residential development down at that end. So we're going to turn up next one there, Selwyn. So we're going to turn left here. So on the right-hand side is the Catholic cemetery. So it's an historic cemetery. It's actually in Brockton, but we maintain it. And on the right, on the left-hand side here is what I guess we would call the Catholic or the Protestant cemetery. We also maintain. Yeah, and then we'll just.
Do the neighbors get along, or do you get complaints?
You know what? This is probably one of the quietest neighborhoods in town. It's very popular. From that perspective.
Is this what you call the silent majority?
Yeah.
People are just dying to get in here?
We have no issues with anybody that's in here. However, their relatives are very vocal.
No doubt.
Okay, so we'll do all the way around here. And actually, we're pretty quite proud of this cemetery. It's well maintained. Our caretaker is well into his 70s by now, but he is dedicated and committed to making this cemetery look good. So that's a good thing.
The lands that's behind us now, where we just turned, and there were two sort of the southwest there. It was an empty field with grass, and is that just expansion area for the cemetery?
No, I'll show you where the expansion area for the cemetery is. It's actually further. Yeah, you'll be on your right past the built-up area, I guess. The area that you've seen to the right as we turned off there, that's owned by Henry Lansing. He has the chicken farms at the bottom of 7th Avenue. He used to raise horses in there, from what I understand, but the land is just one property owner right now. So the area to your right here is future cemetery lands. We actually sold 1 acre to Rivera, and the hospital sold about 4 acres. So to your right, as you can see, that there's a bit of that grassy area. That's where the new Rivera long-term care project is going to be built, and 128 beds, and it'll sit on about 5 acres. So this area is kind of going to be your one-stop hospital long-term care cemetery.
And go to the cemetery, yes.
Yeah. We're going to go. We'll go right up at the lights.
So is this the area up here where you're saying what the Bendick Township didn't want to take the road?
Yeah, this is it. So this Esso on the run, and Mr. Sub. Oh, somebody's having a birthday party. Honk your horn. Yeah, no, we're going to go straight. We're going to go straight, Solid. Yeah, we're going to go straight down 7th Ave. So, yeah, so it's a much more attractive entrance to Hanover than what was there before, as you've seen from the pictures. Horizon Chicks is on the right. And it looks like some of our finest at work. Mr. Lansing owns the property to the right, and he owns the chicken farms at the bottom of the hill. So we'll go past the bridge, and then we'll turn left and then turn around and come back again. Yeah. So to the left is basically the boundaries of the developed area. However, the lands to the left in that field are within Hanover. They're in a special policy area of which we're investigating right now to see if there's development potential in there. However, as you can appreciate, there's a river that goes right through here, and it's been prone to flood. So we're not sure what opportunities will be there for us. We're gonna go left, right past the bridge here. No, yeah, turn around and come back. Yeah. This little built-up area is called Matville. It's actually in West Gray. So if we could probably just go around and turn around and come back up or something, yeah. All right, a little tricky here, but we'll have to turn around. Oh, you can go four-wheeling with your car. Everybody seems to be still with us. That's a good thing. Hey, so check that at all, eh?
They're gonna follow the yellow beast. It'll be when you're taking us back in the back farm, there's an old little road. This one will be start to wonder.
The honourable member from Southgate has been taking waving lessons from the Queen herself, with that graceful wave of the hand.
Yeah.
Maybe he's looking for a new job as the Governor General or something.
Brian, did you mean to leave all five fingers up, or?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hit that.
Well, situations, I imagine he'd be better than the current one.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you can see, the whaling, it's called Cedar, or no, it's called, what was it called? It's called Whaling Subdivision, but it's actually got a name. Meadow, Southern Meadows maybe, or something like that. Anyway, again, pretty high-end homes in there. Brian Whaling built. You know, there's been issues in the past here, you know, with the smell from the chicken barns. I haven't heard anything lately, but you know, I mean, the chicken barns were there for a long time. So, I mean, that's what happens when you get a major area, you know, urban area or significant urban area with, you know, and rural industry. So, but anyway, they seem to be getting along okay now. We're going to keep going straight.
Maybe everyone's wearing masks, Brian, that they're not smelling it as much.
There you go. And you know what? Maybe that's why we haven't heard anything lately. To the right, again, is that Esso, and just recently built. There was a lot of pushback from residents because they thought that, you know, anytime there's change, but with the fence and everything, they're happy. It's a much bigger improvement than what was there before. So if somebody's having a birthday, that's great. Yeah. So Hanover Honda, for example, on the left here, I mean, and Holman Motors, everybody's starting to feel a bit of a crunch for lands. They're expanding. You know, I guess when they were built, there was room, but there's really not much room. You can see the cars are just jammed in there, and you know, they're selling a lot of vehicles out of here. To the right is the Raceway, Hanover Raceway, and as Don said, they had a very good year this year, despite nobody being able to watch. Towards the end, they were allowed 100 people to be able to watch the races, socially distanced and everything else. The slots facility is just to the right, also in the same building that the Hanover Raceway is. It was an $18 million upgrade, and we're doing very well until March. Been shut down since. Our P&H Center, indoor pool, arena, walking track is to the right. So it's a really busy area.
So your arena's open?
No, because we've got a recovery center set up there. There's 50 beds.
Oh yes, that's right. So it's
we have a meeting with Dr. Era on the 7th and we're kind of hoping he's going to give us the go-ahead. What he'd like to do is remove all of the recovery centers at the same time. So there's one in Kincardine and one in the Bayshore and Owen Sound. So we're hoping that, you know, he gives us the blessing to go ahead, because as you can appreciate, our youth groups and some of our adult groups are pretty anxious to get back in there.
Right.
Yeah. So we're going to at the next set of traffic lights. I don't think I want too much with this area right here.
This is the corner where the Queen's Hotel used to be.
That's right. Yeah. So it's open space, designated commercial at this point, and we're cautiously optimistic that something's going to happen there in the next little while. Paul's come, yeah, I think. Okay, so we'll just let this truck go by Paul here, and then we can go back in, because I think Brian's in behind him. Okay. Okay, so we're now in the downtown. Oh, is she going? Okay. Okay. So we're now in the downtown area, and you know, for all intents and purposes, it's you know, there's a few empty storefronts, but a few of them are filling up. We now have 2 applications for cannabis authorities or authorization, so that'll occupy 2 of these spaces. Yeah. So anyway, you know, there's not a lot of vacant areas, and primarily a lot of financial businesses, some retail, social services. Everybody catches up to the lights here, and then we'll lights on the right-hand side is the forum, or the building that Don was talking about regarding that recently had a fire. That there's 24 residents that we're aware of. Yeah. Yeah. County Social Services is on the left. Right. So right beside Fabulous Fashions is the forum, in the gray brick, painted brick. And that pretty well brings us to an end. We've driven the whole perimeter, pointed out, I think, where the main things, and we're just going to pull back into the Civic Center parking lot.
And you still have an active Legion, right?
Yes, actually, they just did some work in there, some renovations. However, you know, they've been talking to us about options as well. So, but yeah, the Legion is, I would say, thriving, but as far as Legions goes, still operating. This gentleman to the right here is our Director of Public Works, so you may want to wave. So I guess we can get out, and if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I need a washroom break.
Yeah, I can let you back in. Okay, great.
We have to end our meeting.
Oh, yeah. Can you do that inside or outside?
I'll ask her. Good, we have to end our meeting, so how do you want to do that?
Well, I thought a mover, Councillor O'Leary, and seconded by Councillor Desai, that we adjourn the meeting at 12:11. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Excellent.
We're adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you both. I appreciate that. That
No,
was a good
thanks.
tour.
You learn